she decided to take on a local female club after Berry Ladies, one that wanted to get into the limelight, Oak FC, and in 2 years, I don't know, at this point in time, let me just confidently say it looks like they have qualified. And if you are getting the drift, I'm talking about Mrs. Mercy Tego Kwaku. Don't turn the surname because she will not have it lightly. She will call you and correct you. So the name is Mrs. Mercy Tego Kwaku, not Kwaku Tego. Hi, Mom. Good morning. It's always good to see you. You remember what my producer told you when you walked in? Okay, we can now hear you. Good morning.
Good morning.
He likes your outfit. You're always looking. You have it now and then. We won't take it away from
this woman.
My co-host is on.
From the time I have known her as a player, she has refused to feed into the stereotype. Okay. She says, I am a female first. I only blessed to play football. So she has never dressed like the way we see typical footballers dress. You would see her in heels and in her jeans properly showing up. So
she will tell us more of that story before she tells us how it's going with OKFC, who look like they have one leg in Women's Premier League, because if at this point in time the points gap and the GRA, they are gone. So we'll continue with that conversation very soon. But Anita Weduminta, I'm sure we've heard of her already. She has also joined that. So unassuming, not your typical footballer you want to hear a lot of news about, but of course she took education seriously, and deputy superintendent, I get it? I'm giving you more posts there. Deputy,
I am superintendent.
I am sorry. God, I should have left it for you and talked about the football one. I'm just happy to have all of you in this room, so you can pardon me today. It's just pardon me. It won't happen again. So, Superintendent Anita Weduminta of Immigration Ladies, assistant coach with the Black Princesses, and now also assistant coach with the Black Queens of Ghana. It's a pleasure to have you again, Anita.
The pleasure is all mine.
Okay. Drum roll. The woman I have admired, longed to talk to, but my shyness will not allow. Today, a big thank you to Sporty FM. I have the honor. It's a little far, but I'm sure at the end of the day, it will be very close. A very well-respected female sports journalist, speaks her mind, speaks it the way it is. You will understand anything you need to understand when you sit and listen to her. I remember in December, after running commentary for U17 Girls Cup, someone dared compared me with her, and I said, Massa, please calm down. I am now learning, but I am happy. I also come to mind when she is mentioned, and so it is my singular honor to have lawyer. Hey, she beat me. Lawyer Eva Oche. No. Yeah, bravo. Good morning.
Good morning, and a pleasure to be here.
It's always a pleasure to listen to you and see you today.
My learned sister. Okay, I'm not a friend.
No,
because I'm not a lawyer.
So this is me starstruck seeing about you. This morning we are blessed, and so tune into Sporty 106.1 FM in Accra, 102.5 in Takoradi, 91.3 in Kumasi. We are still laying the grounds and preparing for International Women's Day celebration that will be marked tomorrow, 8th March 2025. And so we are going to tell the woman's story, and forgive us if we have narrowed it to the sporting world, because that is where we find ourselves. But I'm sure before we go, we'll expand the conversation to appreciate women in other facets as well. So it's fairly balanced. Two women who have played and are now coaches, and we have two great minds, an encyclopedia and a lawyer, who have all been journalists on this table. So as a round table conversation we are going to have, and I am going to be biased, but it is announced. Eva, I would want to begin with you because I can give you all the time. You see your stars
when I'm tongue-tied.
Oh, and you see someone you admire so much and you want to give it all the time, and I feel like sacking everybody, but I can't. So,
we can take back seats. We can take back seats and be observers.
Allow me to.
No, that's why we are saying that we don't mind taking back seats.
I am excited. I'm really
you should
excited.
The conversation is richer with everybody. So
yeah.
Take a back seat.
I, for one, like I've expressed, I've listened from afar, I've watched from afar, and asked myself, how does she do it? How did Eva get into our world?
And our world is the world of sports. I believe.
Yeah.
So Eva grew up in a family that loved sports, loves sports. I should correct it, and watches sports together. So growing up, we would wake up at dawn to watch Azuma Nelson, Nanaya Okone do all those great boxers fight at odd hours. We would watch football together. Depending on where you stand, you might be with the losing side or the winning side. We would tease one another as a family. So, I mean, it's something that I grew up loving. And so it was very easy for me to take a firm decision when I found myself at the Ghana Institute of Journalism, that I would have a diploma in sports reporting. So that's how I ended up on radio, on TV, but I started off as a writer.
Okay.
So I've kind of covered every bit of it. So that's how I found myself. It's a passion that I grew up with, and I decided to transform it or translate it into a profession or a career. And so I've just been living the life I love.
Okay.
Doing what I did as a sports journalist.
Of course, if you have that passion and that desire to translate what you love or what you've been watching into, let me say, a part of you or building it as a career. Around the time that you started, International Women's Day has sought to, let me say, break certain stereotypes, make sure women are accepted into worlds, I should say, are known as a men's place. Surviving in that environment, has it been easy?
Initial days, not at all. Not at all. You couldn't have put it any better. It was a man's world. Still is to an extent, but I mean, thank God we've had the opportunity to move, to break the barriers and ensure that more female faces are seen and more female voices are heard. But I mean, we came in at a time where it was predominantly a male domain. But thanks to people like Rosalind, who had come before us and blazed the trail, we had a few to look up to. I think when I came in, she was the main person. Mavis Akoto was in the space as well, but she exited after a while. So Rosalind, you rightly called her an encyclopedia. She's been the mainstay. She's been there for the longest haul. So she was there. So thankfully we had people like her. I had someone like her to look up to and be there for the long haul. So it wasn't easy. You always got the curious stares whenever you showed up anywhere, you know, just to let you know that this is not where you're supposed to be. But hey, we dug our feet in and we were there to stay, you know, and make a mark. And thank God today our names can also be mentioned. I mean, when you're talking about persons who have contributed immensely to this.
A fondest memory you'd want to share, or a point in time where you got and say, okay, this is it. I am really sure I want to do this no matter what happens?
Well, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. As because I started off as a general news reporter in the newsroom at New Times Corporation. I was there for a bit in the newsroom, a few months, and then I realized that I was not getting the kick I needed. I would go out, cover stories, come back, put the stories together with the senior correspondent I would have gone out with, but I realized that was not really it for me. And every now and then I will stray to the sports department, which was housed elsewhere on the compound. And then whenever I was in the midst of the sports reporters, I felt very much at home, and they were in awe of my depth of knowledge of sports and all of that. So they started asking, why are you in the newsroom? Is it not boring over there for you? And so I saw that as an opening. I said, okay, so can I tag along one time when you're going out for stories? Back in the day, we did not have the luxury of grabbing stories off the internet and fine-tuning things like that. You had to do the hard lifting, so you needed to go out there and get the stories, whichever way you can. You needed to create the stories, get to the newsmakers and make sure you come back with stories to fill those blank pages. There was no excuse. So I said I'll tag along one of these days, and that's how it started. And I started going out with them, and eventually I took the decision that, that's my passion. Okay. I realized that I loved being out there, meeting all these personalities that you would only read about in the dailies or hear on radio, sometimes see on TV and all of that. They were the newsmakers, and I had the opportunity to meet with them, interact with them, interview them. I was in my world, and I decided that it was time for me to make that switch. And so I decided to move to the sports desk, and that's where I stayed. Well,
you're still live on Sporty 106.1 FM in Accra, 102.5 in Takoradi, 91.3 in Kumasi. This is the feminine side of the Sporty Breakfast, serving you a platter of delights as we walk into International Women's Day tomorrow, 8th March 2025. Madam Mercy, I want to come to you now. Going about, I don't think the plan was to play, coach, referee, and pick up refereeing to the highest that you have it now, and then still be coaching and making sure you get women to the level at least that you were. Was that the main plan, or something happened and pushed you into our world?
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Life is all about planning.
Yeah.
Even though from the onset I didn't plan, but along the line, when I got to the secondary school, I realized I had something that I could develop. So I started developing it. Whenever I had the chance to do an activity, I was a high jumper. So during the inter-schools, I was always first in those activities. So I started polishing it. I had good coaches who were helping me to polish it. But when I had the opportunity to enter into the national team as an athlete, I got to know that usually the field events were not so vibrant. So whenever they were traveling, they dropped the field event. So I decided to divert into football. We had then transferred, my parents had then been transferred to Tema. And I met one footballer, goalkeeper, Simon Ado, who introduced me to a fun game that they used to play during the end of the year, December. It was women's football. after one of those activities, or that year, a group of people decided to form women's team. So that is how come I found myself in playing football. And along the line too, it dawned on me that there will be a time I'll quit football. That the strength will not allow me to continue playing. So I was just asking myself, what next? So I decided to join referee. I was fortunate to have Tema Referees Association at the Tema Stadium. That is exactly where we trained. So I spoke with one person in the association and he directed me as to what to do. But then I had seen a referee who is a woman. Unfortunately, she's no more officiating, she's not active now. But she's a match commissioner, Madam Christina Tete. I saw her officiating at Tema Stadium, then Afienya United and Asante Kotoko. Looking at her stature and how she went about officiating, I said no. I was really encouraged. There and then, after the game, I spoke to her. And she said, I have what it takes to be a referee, so I should join. So right then, I had encouragement from Madam Christie and continued. And latter part of my officiating too, I realized that yes, I love football. I still want to stay within the football cycles. So what next? I did a little administration, and administration is about writing. I want to be active. So I could read and write, and I can still read and write. So why can't I do the course, the coaching course? So when I was about 3 years to the end of my officiating or refereeing, I started my coaching courses. I did my license C, CAF license C, license B, then the license A. So when I was able to complete the entire license A course, I just told myself that it's time for me to quit refereeing. So I made sure the transition was very smooth from one activity to the other, and this is how come I became a coach.
That call to take over the job at Amadeus, how did you receive it? Why did you accept it? Because I'm sure you knew it was to coach a male team playing in the Premier League at that time. Yes, refereeing, you have seen games involving them at other venues and all of that, but to accept to coach a male team, how did you arrive at that?
Fortunately for me, most of my backroom staff that I met then in Amadeus were all past footballers. James Nano and others. They were all past footballers, so they knew me, and I had officiated their matches severally, and they know me to be a very disciplined person. So in fact, it wasn't easy. It wasn't difficult for me, and some of the players I also coached were still playing whilst I was a referee. Okay. So the respect was there, and I was accepted very well. So I felt very comfortable being a coach with Amadeus professionals.
I will pardon you if you really don't want to talk about this, but we want to continue with your coaching journey into the senior national team, the Black Queens, a side that you have been part of. How was that experience? In charge, assistant, however, won our first WAFU competition with us. You tried with the Alcon, it didn't really work out here in Ghana in 2018. But that coaching period with the senior national team, if you can shed a little light, and when you accepted to take over OKFC, why that project as well?
With the Black Queens, it was during Nyantechi's era. I remember Didi Dramani was my head coach, and he had decided to go and upgrade himself. So he left the team, and we had a meeting with the FA, the technical staff, with the FA and Executive Council. And they said, since I've been able to understudy Didi for a while, I should try my hands on and see whether I can really. I'm ready. I was really ready to take the mantle. And knowing myself, I said, yes, I want to challenge myself. So I took the task. And lo and behold, my first assignment, I won WAFU. So, in a nutshell, that is it. And with Oaks, also I had a call from the king, my king, Togbe Afede, and His Royal Highness. And I couldn't say no. I said, I will do it. So I was given the mandate. For 4 years, we should be able to qualify to the Premier.
Yeah.
And I accepted it. But I told myself 4 years would be too long. It's a matter of working hard and spotting the right people to work with. If you have good resource, I believe I could make it. That's what I told myself. And lo and behold, this is our second year and we are almost qualified to the Middle League. So this is all about it.
Okay. We'll talk about women in coaching or maybe refereeing and how we have acknowledged or celebrated them thus far. So maybe you can really think through that one when I come back to you. But Anita Redu is also here. The job of football for us is not an easy conversation to have, because if you're a boy and you're growing up, the first thing everybody will tell you, okay, when I'm coming, I'll buy you football. It is noted that it is something every boy should be able to do, at least to a certain level. For you, I do not know your childhood, but you look like the reserved person, and allowing yourself into a space that will get people seeing you, talking about you, and I don't want to use the word heckle, but push you here and there. How did football happen for you? And thankfully, you added education to get into immigration.
I think everything you've said is right. I'm the reserved type, and in fact, I would say that the passion has always been there. Football, sports has always been in my family. So it was like the thing was embedded in me at birth. So I couldn't do anything about it. I remember growing up, I used to play around the house with area boys, small boys, because at that time, women's soccer wasn't so popular like you have now. I was still the shy type, even through my playing days at Gattel Ladies, even through the national team. I've always been the reserved type, but I'm serious with whatever I do. So on the field of play, I'm a different person. But after that, I go back to my usual self. So you would normally not find me around when the event is over. Yes, I'm always at the background. After my job is done, I just vanish, and that has been me. But it gets to a point that you cannot hide anymore. So I have to cope with the whole situation, and I hope that I'm doing it so well.
You are trying, given that you've accepted to be a shy person, to get into the limelight like this. Certainly, when you get to the national teams and really it's not going well and everybody wants to have a say, definitely sometimes you'll be picked out and talked about because you are a former player. So some would expect that you should do things differently. But immigration, how did that also get into your line?
Yeah, I remember 2001 when we played the gala. We used to play gala at the stadium, and we played the final with our rivals, Ghana Post. Gattel versus Ghana Post, and we won actually. So I was really looking forward for a call up to the national team at that time. And then I had applied for applied to immigration, and then I think Ghana Armed Forces. So in 2022, early 2022, I had the response from immigration. But I remember telling my mother that I want to play football, so I want to forgo that one. But she said, football is always there. You can start, take up the job, and then you can always continue with football later. And my mother had always been my support system. You know, she had always been there for me. She bought my first JC, my first canvas.
Oh, so you have a home that allowed you to play football?
Yes, my mother had, in fact, all the principles that I know now, I learned it from my mother. She would tell you, do your chores, focus on your education. Once you are done with school, you come and do your house chores, you can go and play. So she allowed me to play because she was an athlete herself. She was a sports person in the family. My dad never did any sports. Nothing. He was more or less like education. So even my senior brother, he had an opportunity to play for Sweden All Blacks those days, but he said no, go to school, you know. So he was like the school type, but my mom was the sports type. She did sports in school, so she encouraged me to do sports but never abandoned my education. So that was how come I then had to go for the training. And I remember at the training school I saw a newspaper with the list of players that had been called up, and I wept because I saw names that were at the bench, you know, whilst I played. So I knew that if not for being at the training school, that would have been my opportunity. But I still found a way to get back. So
no regrets now, right?
No.
Okay. Now, right into a bit of coaching. How did you get there? And it's good to know that you are with two senior women national teams at this point in time. That's a good one.
Yes. Fortunately for me, at the time that I started, I had people to look up to. Gata Ladies, I would say, was a great foundation for me because I had all the national stars around me. So if you needed an inspiration or an example of what you could become, they were all around. The Alberto Sakis, the Adra Bayos, the Sheila Okines, Elizabeth Bedus. I mean, you could just name them. And our coach was Mike Akpe at that time, and he was the national team coach of the Black Queens.
SportyFM.
So it wasn't difficult really for me getting into national. I remember after that gala, you know, I did so well that now people started getting to know me because I was always the shy type. So, but Madam Rosalind will tell you, when it gets to that time, the gala, the stadium will be packed. So I think that from there, people started getting to know who Anita was then, and that was how I think that it projected me to the level. So after getting into immigration, I still found my way back into sports, even though I was posted to Aflao. I got my way into the team, and in 2012, the team was registered to play in the league.
This is SportyFM, the voice of sports.
I always don't like people trying to use their positions to intimidate. It got to a time, it's a funny story. I saw it as a challenge from one of our coaches then. So I decided that coaching is not something that is limited to only men or specific people. I could also do it. So I just took the challenge and started my coaching career. That was in 2017. I did my first coaching course at Winneba. So that was how I started. But I was still playing at that time.
Okay. You're still live on Sporty 106.1 FM. This is the Sporty Breakfast, and this morning we are trying to prep you and get you ready for International Women's Day that will be celebrated tomorrow. And so we are doing it the feminine way today and walk you into that special day tomorrow. And if you're just joining us on our Twitter Spaces on SportyFM or Facebook SportyFM or any of our channels in Takoradi, Kumasi and in Accra, we have been talking a lot on Sporty Breakfast and trying so hard to recount some moments and celebrate our women who have been on the field, out of the field, and writing and talking about sports. We are limiting it to sports because this is our world, but on the whole, we are celebrating women, and tomorrow is when we are going to mark that day. So if you just tune in, I'm here with Roslyn Amo, who is my co-host for today. Madam Mercy Tego Kwaku is also here. Eva Ochre is here as Kwa, I should add that. And Anita Reduminta is also here. We've been having some interesting conversations as to how they got into our world of sports, and also as we look forward to accelerated action of continuing to celebrate our women. You can join us on WhatsApp with your messages 0542 571061 0542 571061, and be sure we'll be able to answer all your questions, or any woman you want to celebrate. We'll read all of those messages for you before we check out of the studio. But we are also informing you that we are going to have some giveaways as we mark International Women's Day tomorrow, so you stay tuned for that one. We'll have a short interview pretty soon, and then we'll lay down the modalities to be able to get any of those prizes as we continue to celebrate women in the world. You're still live on the Sporty Breakfast here with me, and I have this great woman here, and we are talking about how we are going to accelerate the action to celebrate our women in all spheres. But this morning we are talking about our sporting world. Madam Mercy, I want to talk to you about this. You are married with kids and having to juggle all of this with family. How has it been?
Like I said initially, life is about planning. You plan your life in such a way that you don't find yourself wanting at a point in time. And getting married marriage is a choice. So I really looked through and I made a choice. Someone who could understand me and know what I do and accept me for who I am. So that's exactly what I did. My husband was also a sportsman. He understands what I do. So when it was time for me to make babies, we planned and it worked. My mom is still alive. It got to a time when it's time for me to travel, I leave the kids with my mom. When my husband closes from work, he goes to pick them till I come back. And it's like we were rotating, and generally that's how it all it was done.
From your point of view, International Women's Day seeks to celebrate women and recognize the works that we have done in various places that we find ourselves. Do you think we have celebrated our sports women enough, to include yourself? Have we celebrated you people enough?
I wouldn't want to complain too much, because you are talking about me. And somebody who should say that Mercy has not been celebrated enough, not me. I think I'm okay so far. Wherever you go, you mention Mercy Tego and everybody knows Mercy Tego. So if you think they are not doing much, you can do it, but not me. I wouldn't want to say whether we've been celebrated enough or not. Maybe my other colleagues.
I would want to throw this to Madam Rosling and Eva. We are with them, especially in the sporting disciplines? We see what they do, and have we advocated for their celebrations enough? Do we really recognize them enough?
Well, as a co-presenter, I don't know whether I should, but I think that the interesting thing is that I have been with them from the beginning, everyone around this table, and so sometimes it becomes personal and a bit emotional, but it is so critical, especially with Mercy, that of the saying that no prophet is accepted in his own home. In the last few years, I mean, it's been a very troubling time for me, having to personally sit through and listen to some of the things that the media have said against her, trying to vilify her for what she's done. And I think that I haven't minced words. She was a player in 1998 and 99. She was part of the squad that went to the first World Cup. And Abigail, love her or hate her, she probably will be the only one to have planned and transitioned in the three important aspects of football. She's an administrator. Just that she doesn't like to do it. I mean, whatever gains women's football, the local league is choking. She was an integral part of it as well, because we've served on the women's league board for a very long time, and so I know her. I mean, that is it. But for me, it is not a matter of knowing her, but it is a matter of appreciating what she has brought to the table. Look, she wanted to learn under Didi Dramani, and so when she was appointed an assistant coach in 2017, 2018 as Didi's assistant, we had a few chats, and I said, look, and Anita will always tell you, I am always on them, that we can't allow you to just go waste because you have too much to give back to the sport. And perhaps that is also, I'm proud to see them make those strides in the game. But for Mercy, I was with her in Cote d'Ivoire, Abidjan, where she won. I saw the work she put in and everything. And I told her, look, if you are consistent, if we will get the needed support that you will get, I am sure you are going to make it. It was from what Ghana had done with Mercy Tego Kwaku that made Nigeria go for Florence Omagbemi. Florence had been in there, but she wasn't so sure, because most of the players, if you realize, most of the African players, as soon as they are done playing, they wash their hands off their national teams and they go to privately to do whatever they want to do. South Africa showed the way by bringing Desiree Ellis, and they said, look, we have gone around, shopped around, worked with so many coaches. This is what we want to do now. He who knows it feels it, and so we will give you all the needed support to stay in there. And that is how come, if South Africans are celebrating their successes, it is because of the time they gave and the investment they made in Desiree Ellis. And then Nigeria decided to do Florence Omagbemi. She was there with them in 2018. They were impatient with her because after the winning the 2018 WAFCON, the ladies went back to Nigeria and they staged that protest in over unpaid bonuses, and they singled out Omagbemi, just like Mercy has been. I mean, they singled her out and she paid for that, but she had no regrets, because she said, look, give them what is due them, because if it were the men, you would do the same. And then we come to Ghana and Mercy takes charge. What did we do with Mercy? The FA was willing to give her the support, but were we willing as a nation to give her what she required to work with? We didn't. She would call international players, and they will say, work with what you have locally, because we are doing Promotes Ghana. She would ask for training camps, and she will ask for training camps, and they will say, no, stay at Pram Pram, when we knew that the facilities at Pram Pram then were not up to scratch. And so that is what we did for her. She would ask for bonuses or allowances that would let her efficiently run her team whilst they were in camp, and they would not give her the and to date it works. And yet we bring in Nora, and we were paying her a monthly allowance. We ensured that 90% of the players she played with were the foreign-based players that Mercy and Yusuf Basigi had, and Ampem Dakwa and Nana Dakwa had trained. Most of the players, we say, apart from those who were born in Europe and elsewhere, all of those players passed through the hands of these coaches. And so what is it that she did? But unfortunately and sadly, it is some of the media people who didn't even know what was going on with them. And I always say that I don't cry for our coaches, because they will tell you, and of course rightly so, they would want to protect their jobs. They would want to, I don't know whether they are made to swear oaths of secrecy and allegiance, because they will not complain about it. It is only when you are close to the team,
maybe it's the passion,
and you know. So for me, it's not the national honors. She doesn't need the national honors, but how much have we respected what she brings to the table? What I mean, if for nothing at all, Abigail, but for the time that we lost our last, I don't know whether it was the World Cup or the Olympic qualifier to Kenya, we had played here. She had requested for 4 international players. She got only 1. Even that one, it was because the player was on vacation, so she managed to join the team. When we struggled to play well here and we were going to Kenya for the return leg, that was when she was told that invite the players, 3 of the players that you want to invite, and let them meet us in Kenya. And then now we say that she is not, I mean, I'm happy that she has gone back to her original love, which is club and development, player development, and she's training with the Oaks ladies. Let us see what she does with it. Whilst we are not celebrating her here, CAF says we see the gem in you, and so come and become the coach's trainer. And she's training coaches, female coaches.
I was very proud when I saw her in 2023. I was to
train coaches who are going to be the next phase of women's football. See the people, and these are the things. But for good. Anita, you're talking about Mercy, so I will leave it there. But I always say that posterity will always judge us. Those of us who know her, I only pray that she can sustain what she's doing. She will excel with Oak Ladies, and then maybe we will get to appreciate what she really does as a coach.
If anything is to go by with her last game I watched at Pobiman, I'm sure she would excel.
Okay. So your question really was, are we celebrating them? I think that if we were doing that well enough, we wouldn't have this hashtag accelerate action as we celebrate International Women's Day 2025. That goes to show that we paid lip service to some of these issues for far too long. They are lingering issues. It's unfortunate that in 2025, a lot of the issues that plagued women in olden times still persist, and that is why we are calling for accelerated action this time around. I remember that even to take up the senior women's job, there was a bit of a jostle. I remember scripting an article for the Christian Messenger. I was trying to remember the title. I think I used the expression cutting your nose to spite a woman or something. We just to show how difficult a decision it was for us as a nation to even hand over a woman's national team to a woman. And I thought that the trend had started globally, where we saw national teams being handed to females, because we had seen the men in charge of that game, but they as players and as coaches would tell you that is a little nuanced. The nuances are a little different from the men's game. So if you have persons who have been there, done that, in charge, then they would appreciate it better and give it that touch that it needs. And so I was particularly excited when she took up the challenge. I think these issues that Rosalind spoke about are issues that that we often encounter whenever we have a local person in charge of our national teams, and perhaps it became more amplified as she was a woman in that position, because for the longest time she was the first woman to take up that position, and so all those issues persisted, and it's most unfortunate. So celebrating them enough, we haven't done that. We need to keep doing that, because we have more women pushing the boundaries. You spoke to the weightlifter. In more recent times, we've had a woman boxer break the glass ceiling and win an international title. So there are more women coming through. Nothing is going to stop that, but we need to ensure that the stereotypes are broken, and we who find ourselves behind the microphones writing and on the silver screens should be the best champions of women's interests. And so I think that a lot rests on female journalists, sports journalists, to trumpet the activities, the exploits, and the achievements of women in the arena of sports. So there's a lot more for us to do. And I think that is why the call is being made today, that we need to accelerate action. There's a lot of talk that has gone on. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the Beijing conference, and we're still talking about, to a large extent, the same issues that have over the years it's saddled, that we have been saddled with as women, and we need to go beyond the talk and take serious action. That is why we are all around this table. So we need to keep celebrating them. I'm excited that she's not easily broken. And so she keeps going, and it's not easy to chalk a first. So no matter what anybody says, you can always go back to the records in our history and say that at one point in our national life, there was a Mercy Tego who took charge of the women's national team. That alone gives younger ladies coming up the hope to aspire to that level and know that it is something that can be done. Anita is doing it now. Exactly. I mean, obviously she took a cue from Mercy, and so that's the way we have to go. We can't stop. We can't stop. There, at every point in time, we're going to have the gender parity issues of equity. Representation will be lopsided regarding women around the table. Policy makers, when you're looking at policy makers, you'd realize that around the table the women will be fewer at every turn. But that should be the motivation for us to keep pushing to have equity and ensure that we are well represented and our interests are being considered at the highest level. So we take these things in our stride. Thankfully, we are made of stuff that keeps us going as women, so we can multitask. You've spoken about how she has juggled her life. She's been on the field itself, she's been on the touchlines as a technical person, she's been in the boardroom as an administrator. It speaks volumes about the capacity of a woman, and I think that those things, those qualities alone that we have been blessed with as women, should encourage us and motivate us to keep pushing. The stereotypes will persist, will exist, but we cannot let that break us. We need to also forge alliances with our male colleagues. Oftentimes when we speak about equality, equity, parity, it's made to seem as though it's a fight against the male gender. That is not the fight at all. We actually need collaborators, we need male allies to push the agenda forward, because trust me, if you empower a woman, you're empowering a whole community, a whole generation, and many lives are touched by that empowerment. So we need the male collaborators and allies to push the agenda forward. I think for the longest time we have been supporting the males. It's about time they gave us the support.
Well, it's about time we accelerate our action in celebrating our women as we mark International Women's Day tomorrow. Anita, something small on the theme and any message you have for young ones that will look up to you to play and possibly end up in a coaching career.
I think that the younger generation, I would say they are the reason that we are still doing what we are doing, because being the reserved type, I thought that most of the things that I did, people did not see. But I've had younger ones come to me, sometimes send a message to say that I'm inspired by what you are doing. So it gives me a message that we are really on track, we are doing something good, and it also encourages me to keep on doing what I'm doing. So what the message I would tell them is that just like we took a cue from our legends, and then we took up the mantle to also pursue our dreams, they should never let go of their dreams. The critics are everywhere. There are people who believe in you, but sometimes they wouldn't want to see you up there. So they may put in a negative word or two to discourage you. My message is that they should stay focused on their dream, just like the weightlifter said. Focus on your dream. The naysayers are all around us, but these are all distractions. Stay focused, work hard. As for working hard, it is paramount. They should work hard and stay focused on their dreams, and definitely they will get there.
Definitely, we will get there. You're live on Sporty 106.1 FM in Accra, 102.5 in Takrady, 91.3 in Kumasi. Madam Messi, before you go, of course, like Eva said, whenever you talk about Messi Tego, it's always first male coach, first female referee, first Ghanaian from CAF to be the trainer's trainer at that level. And I'm sure there's a young lady sitting somewhere who wants to be the second or the third or the fourth to follow and typify Messi Tego Kwaku. We are celebrating women. Any message for the younger generation who will be sitting around this table in some few years to come to have this conversation as well?
Thank you. I think I've been telling them most often, most of the times they want you to look up to me, just like Anita. And she said it all, and I also continue to tell them the key word here for me is discipline and education. In as much as you want to get to the top, be disciplined and stand by what you are aiming to do. No, don't cut corners. Just focus, learn hard, be disciplined, and the sky will be your stepping stone.
Learn hard, be disciplined, the sky will be your stepping stone.